Chief here, and I have another thought. Today, I was thinking about the media and how they engage in Newsspeak. And anybody familiar with the novel 1984, which a lot of people are, either getting more familiar with or are already familiar with, and they're, I think rightfully grafting that onto our times. And that's why I always have said that 1984 and A Brave New World and like Fahrenheit 451 and all these novels weren't prophetic. They were roadmaps. They were roadmaps because I think it's kind of like, like, what is it? What's that shit called when they put like flash of shit on TV, like in Fight Club? What is it called? Fuck, I forgot what it's called. But they try to give you messages under the guise that they're against that message. And I'm just drawing a super huge blank for some reason on what the actual words and synonyms that I could actually use right now for some reason. They're manipulating us into thinking that they're on our side when they're really against us. And Professor Black Truth, he always tells us that, he always quotes Noam Chomsky when he says, with skillful manipulation of the press, they can tell us that the enemy is the good person and that the good person is the enemy. No, that's Malcolm X. I forgot the Noam Chomsky quote. I'm just forgetting everything. But really what I want to talk about is Newsspeak and how they necessarily are controlling how we think about the world, because they're just altering the news and altering situations that are happening in society, newsworthy situations, for propaganda. It's just like, in 1984, they purposely are changing facts in the newspaper to fit the INGSOC's, the English Socialist Party's narratives. And that's what this media is doing to today. They are purposely manipulating everything, especially the headlines, to fit the media's narrative. And the media's narrative is undoubtedly the narrative of a political party, and the political party is explicitly connected to the government. But I just wanted to read this from 1984, the novel, and how they're necessarily manipulating us, and especially when it comes to the Dave Chappelle shit that's going on, when they're trying to use these fringe groups to like cancel him because their feelings were hurt, because he actually spoke the pure truth, the honest truth. And 1984 actually speaks to that, like where the parties in power will actually manipulate you or punish you for telling the truth. The most simplest facts you ever want to understand. Shit from when we were just children. We were children, and that's why they're attacking the minds of the children too, because they want the children to grow up lying to themselves about everything in society. So that's why all these fucking shitty ass insidious groups, especially these critical theorists and the LGBT community and all these groups, are trying to target the children because they want to manipulate their minds into their agenda, so when they grow up, they're going to accept all the lies that they're telling them. But in 1984, this is towards the end of the novel, and this is Winston. He's finally been broken down, especially after he's been discovered that, he's been shirking Big Brother by engaging in, thought crimes. He was discovered as a thought criminal. But he says, the pencil felt thick and awkward in his fingers. He began to write down the thoughts that came into his head. He wrote first in large, clumsy capitals, "Freedom is slavery." Isn't that what's happening nowadays? Freedom is slavery. Oh, if you feel free, you're going to be enslaved by the virus. Then, almost without a pause, he wrote beneath it, 2 and 2 make 5. And what was something big in Dave Chappelle's special for some reason? That he said 2 plus 2 equals 4. All he said was 2 plus 2 equals 4, and he was trying to, compare that to a woman is a woman is a female, and a man dressing up in a dress, and no matter how he feels, no matter what he thinks, will never ever be a woman. Never, ever, ever. Ever, ever, ever. And if that's not transphobic. They're trying to tell you that all they have to do is label you as scared of them, and then just for some reason you're wrong about what you're saying, even though they're not addressing anything that Dave Chappelle said in his special. They're only trying to, like the critical theorists want to say that rhetoric leads to, violence in society, or manipulating people's minds. Just like the media, they want to censor people because they believe that if their message isn't the only message that that people indulge or able to ingest, then they will behave differently than their message. Of course we would. There's 7 billion people on the planet. We're not all supposed to behave the same. I believe in our society we should actually have the same mores and actually understand that, hey, we're in this society together, and we actually should live in ways where we are respectful towards one another, which was the overall message of Dave Chappelle's special, in my estimation. But we're not going to be able to live that way because people aren't able to face the truth. They just want to tell us what the truth is. They want to change definitions, just like in 1984 and in A Brave New World. They want to change definitions. They want to inundate us with false information, truthful information, misinformation, disinformation, so we don't know what's up from down. Down is up, like that radio host said. Down is the new up, because they want us to just think that this society is just so malleable and that anybody can be anything. But let me continue. 2 and 2 make 5. But then there came sort of a check. His mind, and as though shying away from something, seemed unable to concentrate. He knew that he knew what came next, but for the moment he could not recall it. When he did recall it, it was only by consciously reasoning out what it must be. It did not come to its own accord. He wrote, God is power. He accepted everything. The past was alterable. The past had been altered. The past never had been altered. Oceania was at war with East Asia. Oceania had always been at war with East Asia. Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford were guilty of crimes they were charged with, and those were people who he had to change their faces in the newspaper, and then they would have them executed based upon what the media said was their crime. Because the media was changing people who they were telling people were criminals who really didn't do shit in the novel and in the movie. But the movie was based on the novel, and that's one cool thing about the movie too. Like, it purposely didn't have any special effects or none of that shit because George Orwell's wife wanted to make sure if she sold the rights to somebody or allowed somebody to make the movie that they didn't do all this special effects bullshit, which was, she sold the rights to him before 1980 because she died in 1980. But she also understood, like, throughout the 70s, that's when they really started putting special effects in movies. That's why, like, Star Wars came out during then. I believe they were doing Star Trek and shit, 2001. A lot of these films were, instituting all this science fiction special effects. Nothing compared to today, where this is just a simulacrum of a reality where everything just green screened nonsense. But anyway, Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford were guilty of the crimes they were charged with. He had never seen the photograph that disproved their guilt. They needed explicit proof. He needed explicit proof. It had never existed. He had invented it. He remembered remembering contrary things, but those were false memories, products of self-deception. Who's involved with a lot of self-deception these days? How easy it all was. Only surrender, and everything else followed. It was like swimming against a current that swept you backwards however hard you struggled, and then suddenly deciding to turn around and go with the current instead of opposing it. Nothing had changed except your own attitude. The predestined thing happened in any case. He hardly knew why he had ever rebelled. Everything was easy except accepting the truth, accepting their narratives. It still was not easy for him to accept those falsities. Anything could be true. The so-called laws of nature were nonsense. The so-called laws of nature were nonsense. The law of gravity was nonsense. If I wished, O'Brien had said, O'Brien was the person who was torturing him, who was really Goldstein. Where is that? Had said, I could float off this floor like a soap bubble. Winston worked it out. If he thinks he floats off the floor, and if I simultaneously think I see him do it, then the thing happens. It's self-delusion. Winston, what does it say? Suddenly, like a lump of submerged wreckage breaking the surface of water, the thought burst into his mind. It doesn't really happen. We imagine it. It's a hallucination. He couldn't come to the truth, no matter how hard O'Brien, tempted to put it in his head. It had to be coerced out of him. Just like what else? Who else is coercing us to do things and accept the reality that absolutely isn't true? This medicine is supposed to protect us, but you can still get it. You can still transmit it. Where is it at? It doesn't really happen. We imagine it. It is hallucination. He pushed the thought under instantly. The fallacy was obvious. It presupposed that somewhere or other outside oneself there was a real world where real things happened. But how could there be such a world? What knowledge have we of anything save through our own minds? All happenings are in the mind. Whatever happens in all minds truly happens. If that isn't what's going on with the Dave Chappelle controversy, which is not a controversy, it's drummed up, it's phony, it's just a whole bunch of deluded people trying to force society to think like them at the behest of the elite, who are only trying to use this minority population to distract from them not doing anything to help society. That's why this scamdemic always boggled me, because I look at society and I'm an investigative person, and I think that I'm very intuitive, and that I think that I pay attention. And why I was apolitical and why I don't vote is because these people don't fix or change anything. If anything, they actually don't. They do change things for the worse. They change things for the worst. And that's how I see it. But if this doesn't tell us that what's going on with the media today is absolutely them destroying facts, destroying all information, they're destroying history. They're actually destroying history. Excuse me. They're doing everything in this novel. That's why I say it's a roadmap, because they're absolutely using this as a guide, and or maybe this is the truth, and they do that with everything. They've been telling us the truth about what their agenda is forever, and then people just always chalk it up to conspiracy theories or some stupid ass shit, some like ad hominem or some red herring that just says that, if all I gotta do is say conspiracy theorists, and you should disregard everything they said. All I gotta do is say science, even though science has been wrong most often in its history. It's very ever right. It still is not right about a whole bunch of shit. And then that means everything is truthful. Oh, I'm telling the truth because of science. My science is that you're a scumbag. And scientifically speaking, a lot of you are fucking pieces of shit. And I'm a scientist now because I call myself one. And you can't dispute science. My research says that you're a fucking piece of shit. So I'll take that and eat a dick. You fucking pieces of shit. Woo! I almost let one go. But you know, this shit is just, we're just living in a ridiculous world, you know. It's, and a lot of people are saying it's a simulation, a simulation, and somehow I just can't help but believe that it's a simulacra of a society. If you watch that movie Synecdoche, New York, with Philip Seymour Hoffman, fantastic film, where he's trying to make a play of his life, but he's trying to make the play of his life as he's living it, which is crazy. And I think that a lot of people are trying to actually do that as well, living a simulacra of their life, where they necessarily don't want to live their actual life in reality. They actually want to live it on a stage, or live it as they feel they should live it, or as they create it. You know, like Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is trying to create the play. You know, it's all over the place like I always am. Wowzers. But anyway, that's my thought of the day. Chief again. And I would like to thank you for listening to my inane pontificating. Please like and subscribe to Bad Thoughts Publishing Company on YouTube. Thank you so much.